Hello and welcome to Absolute Trust Talk. This is our video podcast at Absolute Trust Counsel. I'm Kirsten Howe, and joining me is one of our associate attorneys, Jessica Colbert. We are talking about the topic is AB Trust. Do you have one? Do you need one? This is a second episode in what I think is a little mini series on this topic. So we did talk about AB Trust a little bit last time. Jessica, why don't you just kind of refresh us a little bit on AB Trust so we make sure everybody listening today is caught up.
An AB trust is a trust where on the death of the first spouse, your one singular trust splits into two trusts. There is the survivor share and the deceased spouse's share. And the surviving spouse can do whatever they want with their survivor share. They can update it, they can change the beneficiaries, but they cannot do that with the deceased spouse's share. And in that way, there's control over the deceased spouse's share of trust assets. And families might want this control for a variety of reasons. If it's a blended family and there are kids from prior relationships, they might want to control the deceased spouse's assets to make sure that the surviving spouse doesn't, change the beneficiaries so that their kids aren't getting anything. There might be concerns about later in life, the survivor being prone to some undue influence, changing the estate plan in ways that they might not like. But just having this trust structure, the AB trust in itself, doesn't necessarily protect from those concerns. Oftentimes, the trust is set up so that the surviving spouse is the trustee of the deceased spouse's share. And if that's the case, then the surviving spouse, can manage and spend the assets however they want, and they aren't under the supervision of someone else.
Yes, I just want to clarify that there typically are rules, guidelines for what the surviving spouse can do with the deceased spouse's share. That's legal, but as a practical matter, if you have the person who's supposed to be following those rules in control, as a practical matter, it might get a little blurry. It might get a little, I don't want to say subject to abuse by the surviving spouse, but things happen. So sometimes we will put in additional protections when we have an AB trust. The clients want an AB trust. The clients really want to make sure the surviving spouse doesn't change the estate plan or doesn't do something that's not correct. So, for example, Jessica, what kind of ideas do you have about that?
You could make it so that someone other than the surviving spouse is the trustee of the deceased spouse's irrevocable trust, or it could be adding a co-trustee, someone else to serve with the surviving spouse, so that they have to make those decisions together. Another option is, even if the surviving spouse is the trustee or the sole trustee, naming someone who will receive accounting. So in that way, the surviving spouse has to report to someone else what's being spent, what's coming in and out of that trust, so that someone else can keep an eye on what's going on with those assets. And it can be something like naming your children. Your children would be motivated to keep an eye on what's going on with things that they will, eventually inherit.
Right. And all of these things can work, but they can also be, fraught. If you have, for example, a step parent who is the surviving spouse and the children are supposed to be kind of policing and watching, this is maybe a good situation for a professional trustee, a disinterested trustee who's going to follow the rules of the trust and still, make sure the surviving spouse is okay. It's not their job to make sure that the children's inheritance is maximized, but so it's just something to think about. These situations, especially in a blended family, take a lot of thought and a lot of care. So anyway, the bottom line here, the point of this episode is that just having that AB structure doesn't necessarily prevent the surviving spouse from doing things that you might not want him or her to do. And so it's important to kind of talk to your attorney about exactly what you want and what's the best way to make sure that happens. Okay, thanks, Jessica. Very good. I hope you all learned a lot today. And we're going to continue this conversation in our next episode. So I look forward to connecting with you next time.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Absolute Trust Talk Live. If you enjoyed listening in, then don't forget to subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may listen by searching Absolute Trust Talk. While you're there, we would also love for you to leave us a review. And then why not share your favorite episodes with family, friends, or colleagues too? You can find all of our shows and corresponding show notes by visiting absolutetrustcouncil.com. You'll also find a variety of other free resources, including our ebooks, videos, blogs, presentations, and more. If you need help with your estate planning or administration, we also offer a free discovery call to help get the process started. You can find more information on booking your session by visiting absolutetrustcouncil.com/scheduling. Don't forget to keep an eye out for our next live episode. If you join us for the broadcast, you can submit questions during the show. But if not, don't worry. You can always get in touch with us by sending a quick message to info@absolutetrustcouncil.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you soon.